Welcome to the Music is My Life podcast from Berklee Online. I'm your host, Pat Healy, and I hope you're having as good of a May as is humanly possible right now. Since it's May, maybe make yourself a margarita to pair with this episode. Because take note that the Jungle Giants are a margarita band. You'll learn why if you keep listening. You'll also learn how to save $100 off a Berklee Online course. Just stay tuned to the end of this episode, or if I'm being honest, you could just check the meta description of this episode or skip ahead, but if you do that, you will miss this brilliant interview with Sam Hales of Jungle Giants. If you don't know them, Jungle Giants are an indie rock act from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia, and Sam is the songwriter, singer, guitarist, multi-instrumentalist, and now the producer of most of the band's music. And it hasn't been an easy journey. They've released 3 albums and 2 EPs, and for the first EP, Sam worked 2 jobs, one at a convenience store, the other at McDonald's, just to make the money to fund the recording, then quit both jobs and never looked back. Sam and the other members all met in high school when some of them played in rival bands. But it all started with Sam's family. Let's let him tell you about it.
My mum's Irish, so I've got a lot of music in the family. Always music was playing. Joan Armatrading would always be blasting through the speakers. So I guess I grew up in a musical house. And my sister would play, she's a concert cellist, so that's what she does, and my brother would play the trumpet, and so I'm the youngest of the 3. And I would have music playing all the time. I guess one of the first times I ever really got seriously into music was when I asked, I don't know why, but when I was like 10, I asked Mum for a flute. And I remember being in the car, I was like, oh, can I play the flute, Mum? And then she looked back at me and she was like, why do you want to play the flute? I was like, I don't know. I want to play the flute. I think I must have seen it on TV or something. Yeah. I thought like tooting it looked fun and all this millions of buttons. So
it had nothing to do with men at work?
No, okay. No. But you know what? That's that worked out later.
Yeah.
And so Mum got me a flute and I went to school and I played the flute and I got seriously like obsessed with doing my scales and I would have sheet music. I'd go home and I'd just practice. The school did this competition and they said it was a normal school, but they had a big music program. And I'm probably about 12 at the time. And the competition was if you did the most practice in a month, you would get free food at the tuck shop for a week. And that's like the cafeteria.
Okay.
That was like the best prize ever. I was like, I'm going to eat meat pies and I'm going to be rich. I'm going to eat all the food. So over the month, I ended up doing like, when they did the awards at school, they're like, 3rd prize goes to Harry. He did 6 hours of practice in the month. Good on you, Harry. It went to the next person. They did 7. And then they're like, and 1st prize goes to Sam. He did 49 hours of practice in the month. People didn't even really clap. They just went, oh, that's a lie. They're like, boo. And I was like, no, I did it. So I won the prize. And then in the end, it became less about the tuck shop. I actually felt with my hands and I felt myself get a lot better at the flute with the practice. It felt good to be good at it because I understood the dynamics of the instrument and I realized that the time and the effort makes you feel good because then you get to know what you're doing. And so that was probably like one of those first moments where everything really got really serious for me where I was like, oh, I'm just going to learn things as far as I need to, and then it can be an expression.
And were you taking lessons as well?
Yeah. So I started taking lessons just after this practice thing, and then I started entering these things called flute bursaries, and that's where you just go and you go like around the city and you compete against other kids and you play like a little jazz piece or something. And I did that for a while, and that was definitely the start.
Now, were you playing with your siblings also?
No, not really. It was kind of just me and playing the flute in my bedroom kind of thing.
And what were you listening to at around 10 to 12 that would you make up flute parts to the music you were listening to, or were you listening to?
I mean, I guess I wasn't even listening to flute music. Separate to that, I was listening to like a band called Grinspoon, if you ever heard of it. I like rock bands.
Okay.
I was just kind of listening to whatever my older sister would show me. So I had a lot of Spice Girls. So everything kind of changed when my sister got a drum kit. She got it from the school and they let her borrow the drum kit for a while. I don't know why, that's so cool. And then she set up the drum kit and then the whole flute obsession thing went straight to the drums.
Yeah.
And then I just started going, all that jazz flute that I'd learned went straight to the drums. And I suddenly got obsessed with Buddy Rich and I listened to Miles Davis and then I went straight into jazz.
Wow, that's really young to do that.
Yeah, well this now, now I'm about like 14, 15.
Okay.
I guess I just sound like a kind of obsessive kid. You know?
It's great. Was your sister upset that you were taking over her instrument?
I think, you know what, she didn't even really like the drums anyway. I think she got them because I think she was going to start a band or something.
Yeah.
And then she didn't really do it. So I just kind of like, started playing with the drums.
Is a brother and a sister? Is that right? Did either of them go on to keep playing music, or did they?
Yeah, well, my brother gave it up.
Yeah.
I think he actually sold his trumpet at one point. He just like pawned it. But my sister still plays the cello, and she teaches the cello, and she plays in like a bunch of like gypsy kind of ska bands, or some jazz stuff and orchestral stuff. So she's like totally in the music world and loves music. She actually has like helped me arrange strings, and she's played the cello in like we have a song called "Feel the Way I Do." She's playing the cello in that, and then "Heavy Hearted" in the pre-chorus. There's strings, and that's her. Yeah, so it actually I had never really thought that, but she played heaps with me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So okay, you're 14, you're obsessed with drums.
Yep.
And this is around the time you meet other people that you would eventually play with, and then others were your rivals, right? Is that how the story goes?
Oh yeah. So now I guess like it's high school, and that's like the best part about playing drums. Then you're instantly you're in the band world now.
Yeah.
I mean, meeting people play guitar. Oh, you want to be in a band? Like, and then it went straight from jazz just to rock. My first band, we were called Toxic Symptom.
Okay.
And we were a metal band. And
Did you just use the Twisted Sister logo?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think we used like band name generator online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
No, it's pretty cool. Actually, we should bring that back.
Yeah.
But so I kind of started playing metal. I got some double kicks. I don't know. We were trying to make dramatic metal music.
Yeah.
But where Jungle Giants, the origins of Jungle Giants was, I met Cesira, who plays guitar, and she was like a very kind of quiet, reserved girl when she first came to school. I think Andrew introduced her to me. But she used to just sit in the music block, and she used to just play guitar, not talking to anyone. And she was like such a weirdo, but she was really nice. She was just super shy. We got this band together. I don't even remember what we were called at the time. Then Andrew and Keelan were in another band, so we used to do like...
Do you know what they were called at the time?
They were called Fake Tan.
Fake Tan, okay.
But they spelled it Phaic.
Okay, wow.
It's actually pretty good.
Okay.
And then we would do Battle of the Bands. And right, like now we're kind of 15, 16, and that's like grade 11, grade 12. We're kind of finishing school. I had just started learning guitar. Andy was starting to teach me the guitar. And in that same way, like how each instrument just progressed into the other thing, I just started going, oh, maybe I'll just make songs now. Maybe I'll just get the acoustic and make some songs. And so then I finished school, and I was still like playing drums. And for a while, I really wanted to be like a professional jazz drummer. So we had a thing called the Conservatorium of Music in Brisbane, and I got accepted to be in the Young Conservatorium band. So I was just jazz drumming, and we're playing jazz charts, and that was going to be what I was going to do.
Is there much of a jazz scene in Brisbane?
There is, yeah. I mean, like,
cool.
it's small, like, but you know, Brisbane's only like a million people.
Okay.
And so I was going to do that, and then once I got the guitar going, I was like, oh, I'm just going to give that up again, and now I'm going to go to the other thing.
Okay.
And so by this time, my mum must have been infuriated with just like stick to one thing.
All right. Did you end up pursuing that program at all?
No. I kind of gave that up to do the guitar thing. Then I started playing acoustic, and I started working on songs, and now like my obsession is Bon Iver.
It's what about like 2006, 7? Or?
Yeah, this is like maybe 2007 or 8. Forever Ago came out, changed my life. I just can't get enough of his music. I love the whole story behind it. He never sang falsetto like that originally, and then he got sick or something is the story, and then he had some kind of liver issue, and so singing high, it didn't hurt him as much. So that's how he got into singing that way. I emulated his music in such a way, and like that was all I was listening to obsessively. And I was listening to a band called Cloud Control, and they're from the Blue Mountains in Sydney, and they're a really cool band. They sounded a lot like Two Door Cinema Club, which were also like one of my favorite bands at the time. So now I'm kind of getting into indie pop. I remember like listening to Cloud Control for the first time in a bus, just like nearly finishing school, and I was like, I want to make a band just like this. So then I finished school. My mum really wants me to not do music. Yeah, I remember, I have friends that are lawyers, but they are in bands as well. You can do that. And I was like, oh, no, I'll just keep doing the band. And she said at one point, I don't remember saying this, but she said, Mum, I've got a bunch of music in my head and I got to get it out. and I don't remember saying that.
Nice.
But I like the story. I like that kid that said that. Good on you, man.
And was your sister pursuing music full time at that time?
Yep.
It wasn't necessarily, I don't want you to go into music because there's no future there. It's just...
It was more like be a teacher.
Right.
Or do what Emma's doing, be a teacher, have something more secure.
Yeah. And what did he go on to do?
He went on to... I mean, my brother's had a really tumultuous life. My brother he's got bipolar.
Oh, okay.
So he just went from job to job. But Emma was kind of doing this teaching. That's what Mum was saying. Mum was saying, just do something secure. And I was like, okay, Mum, I'll audition on guitar. Then I'll go to like uni and I'll study like creative industries. And that's a thing where you can study a Bachelor of Music, but it can be in like songwriting and production. But I failed my audition.
Oh.
It was super annoying. Friends from school, they all covered songs, and I went in and I played my own song. They didn't seem to like it. But I remember thinking, I was like, the people that were judging the audition, I didn't feel like they were actually, I don't know what they were focusing on, but I didn't think they were focusing on the right thing. So didn't get into the audition. Mum was super upset. So we made a deal. She said, you should keep going. But apparently I just had to study photography for a while at this thing and use that as a leg to get into the creative industries.
And so at this time, are the other Jungle Giants members?
They're actually all still in school.
Oh, okay.
They were a grade below me. And so they're still at school. And I did this audition, and the Jungle Giants wasn't called the Jungle Giants yet, and we actually I hadn't even like really asked them all to be in the band yet. It was mainly just Cesira and I. And then so I failed this audition. I did the photography thing, and then I just like dropped out. I was like, this sucks. I don't like photography. I don't like what I'm doing. This is really boring. I went to Cesira and I was like, we're going to do the band thing. You're still at school, but I'm going to work on the songs. I asked Andrew, who had never played bass before, and I remember saying, hey man, would you be into playing bass in my band? And he was like, I don't play the bass. And I was like, do you reckon you could learn and get into it? And the main thing was I just wanted his energy in the band. I wanted him in the band because I thought that he would bring like a lot of, I don't know, a good vibe. And so then there was the three of us. I went and I got a job at Night Owl convenience store, which is like 7-Eleven. And then just down the road, like 40 meters, was McDonald's. And I went to a producer through a friend of a friend, and I said, how much does it cost to make an EP, like 5 songs? And he was like, well, if you want this, you want to hire this, you need an engineer, you need a drum kit, all this. He was like, you need $5,000. And so then I went and I got these 2 jobs. And I did the maths. I was like, okay, maybe I can get this money in like 4 months if I only eat this tiny amount of food each day. I was still living with my mum, so rent was free. And so I used to just stack the shelves in the 7-Eleven, and I'd be in the cold room, and I'd be like, like in my own, like writing little songs, and I'd put my phone on voice record. So I was allowed to stack the shelves for like 15 minutes, full of Coke cans and Pepsi, whatever. And then I'd just sing for about 15 minutes working on songs, and then I'd get out and I'd finish my shift, and I'd say, okay, that was 6 more hours. I've got this much more money. And then I'd change my uniform in the bathroom, and then I'd go down to McDonald's and I'd do the night shift.
Wow.
So I was doing like a bunch of like 70 hours weeks, just like work.
Yeah, did you have any social life, or did you have any
really.
sleep life?
Not really.
Yeah.
I was just like getting up really early, and then I was going to bed really late, and then I was kind of going out on the weekends, but I was a bit too young to actually go clubbing and stuff, so I was just hanging with friends. But to be honest, I barely remember anything about this time.
Yeah, well, that's what they say is like if you don't sleep enough, sleep helps you form memories.
Yeah, okay.
You know? It's because if you don't have that downtime for your memory to process it all.
Yeah.
So we have this professor here who worked with Prince from 1983 to 1987. Her name's Susan Rogers, and she was talking about that time because she never slept. And she was like, I don't remember a lot of that stuff. And she's gone into like psychoacoustics, like how your brain processes what you hear. And
wow.
And but she was just saying, yeah, it's a proven fact. If you don't sleep enough, you're not going to remember things because you need it.
It makes a lot of sense.
So were you taking these voice memos and working on them further and like working up demos also?
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't really recording anything, but I was just more mind mapping stuff. So I was like, okay, well, this is the pre-chorus, this is going to be the chorus. And when I get it, I'll make the voice sound big, and that was like the early stages of having an idea of the production. Oh, I'll make it big. Like I'll put a reverb on it. And so that's what I was doing during this time. And we were kind of like, I was teaching the band little parts.
Yeah. How would you get the rehearsals going?
We didn't really have a drummer because I was the drummer, but it would be like Andrew would come over, Cesira would come over, and we had like this little shack out the back we just called the pool room, and we would kind of play the drums, and we didn't really have a microphone or anything, but we would just kind of jam on the parts. And then I remember one day I was working at 7-Eleven, and then it was like 11 p.m. and I was so tired. And I had my little notepad, and I went, oh yeah, 6 more hours. And I was like, oh, I got $5,200.
Nice.
I was like, I did it. And so I finished that, and then I called McDonald's the next morning. I was like, I quit. Thank you, I quit. I actually hated that job so much.
Yeah, had you established friendships that, like if there were a movie version, obviously you'd have the line about I have to get these songs out of my head, but would there be a character who would be your friend at McDonald's who's rooting for you? Like,
yeah, not really. No. That was weird. At McDonald's, I didn't really make any friends because there's so many people that work there and so many shifts. It's kind of like you just go and you just do it, And I used to work the drive-thru, which I always thought was really cool because I could have one earpiece connected here, and I used to just listen to the Chemical Brothers in my left ear, and I go, hey, working at McDonald's, what can I get you? And then, but I was kind of like dancing. It was kind of a good job, you know, because you didn't really have to interact with many people. You could just talk. So got the money, and then got the band together. So it was the three of us. We booked the studio and made the first EP.
It's interesting you talk about how Andrew, right, the bass player who never played bass before. When you listen to the albums in sequence, you can hear, I don't know if it's his bass playing improving or your notion as a producer of what he could do with bass or...
Well, it's actually, on all the records, I play and record everything myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't present it like that at all, but it's essentially, in a big way, it's a solo effort because I engineer, I write, produce everything, and I play the parts in. It wasn't always originally like that, but it kind of got to a point where I was kind of like, I had strong opinions on how things should be played, and eventually the band dynamic was that everyone was like, well, you write the song, it's okay, you can do it this way as you like. We did our first record after this EP with a producer named Magoo, and I remember finishing that record and him and I were almost butting heads a lot. Oh, that snare's terrible, Magoo. Sam, what are you talking about? It sounds great. And at one point he was like, I'm the producer. That's what he said to me. I was like, oh, sorry. But then I kind of like went home and I was like, but you can't tell me how the song's going to go.
Right.
Right. So then that's kind of how doing more production kind of started for me, was just not allowing the song to sound wrong. Never wanted to compromise. And that's how it's progressed to where I am now.
And so on that first EP, everybody's playing?
Yep. So Andrew's playing, Cesira's playing, and I'm playing the drums on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as you go forward, is it just on the second EP where you start doing everything, or is it the first full length?
Well, actually, it was more on Quiet Ferocity. So actually on a third record.
Oh, wow. The one that just, like, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2017. Yeah. So, but I was writing all the parts and playing some of them on the records, but it wasn't as bedroom as it is now. It's got more bedroom as we've kind of progressed.
Yeah.
But the second EP was just the same, except now we had Keelan, our drummer, and he joined the band because he was just friends with the other guys. And I did have a drummer in mind that went to school with everybody. I didn't know him well, but he was a cool guy. He seemed like he had a good energy. Nick, his name was. And I was like, okay, well, you want to come do the show? But first off, like, you and I will play the songs, all these songs from the EP. And you get a drum kit, I'll get a drum kit in the back of the house, and we'll go over all the parts. And we did it for hours, and he seemed to listen, he seemed to pay attention, and I was like, have you got it? Do you really feel it? Like, you practice with your headphones on when I leave here? He was like, yeah, I got it. And then we did our first gig with him, and he played all the parts completely wrong, and he changed everything, and he still kept within the form, but he never listened to the specific drum fills I was talking about. And then we finished the gig, and I was like shaking. I was like, Nick, what the hell, man? Why did you? And he looked at me. He was like, relax, man. Like, it was fine.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, you don't care at all. And then that was the first time I was just like, you're fired. I was like, go away.
For a gig that was probably, what, $35 or something, right?
Well, we weren't making money,
Right, but that's a real commitment, though. It's almost like you have to treat it like you are, even if you aren't.
Yeah. And I think like that it's all about that attitude, and it's all about not being willing to compromise. Otherwise, who's doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There has to be some kind of direction.
Was it something that you gelled well with Andrew and... How do I say it? Cesira. Because it's not spelled that way, is it?
It's CES, so we just say Cesira.
Oh, Cesira.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I'd imagine playing with them, it was almost like just luck that they really gelled that way with you.
Yeah.
And then you thought this other guy would, but it didn't because he didn't have the commitment.
Yep. And I think it is kind of luck, but I think maybe in some weird thing, maybe there was like a kind of, we all got an energy from each other that we were, I don't know, we were really into music. We really cared about music.
Right.
So those guys really understood when I was like, Mick's out of the band, because they were like, yeah, like he did, they were really good friends with him, but they supported the decision because I was like, you just can't do that. And I felt like I personally affronted that he didn't care.
Right.
Or that he changed everything. But they understood, and I think they've always been very like respectful of me. You know, if I ever wanted to do something very specific, they always went, okay, cool, yeah.
Wasn't there something where you were initially going to be Sam and the Jungle Giants?
Yeah, because this is before that, as we did our first EP, I didn't realize that when it's getting mastered, you have to give them a name because it gets digitally printed. And I had all this list of band names. One of them was Sam and the Jungle Giants. One of them was Sam Hales and the Pity Party. Mm-hmm. The other one was just the Pity Party. And then the worst one of all was the Bears in the Attic.
Okay.
I've always been bad at band names, to be honest. And then I remember getting this call from the guy mastering it. He was like, hey, by the way, you hadn't really told me, what's the band name? And I was like, oh my God. Then I opened my book and I was just like, how long have I got? He's like, I'm printing it now. I need to know. And I had no time. He was like, what is it? And I was like, the Jungle Giants. And he was like, okay. I'm like, phone call done. And I was like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah.
I called the guys and I was like, Cesira, are you okay with being called the Jungle Giant? She's like, oh yeah, that was one of the ones. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So you have the band together, then you make the decision that you're going to be doing the production yourself and you're going to be playing most of the stuff. Is that where most of the stylistic shift happened?
I mean, maybe it changed when I first started demoing more. Like around the first record, I wasn't producing the first record, but I had moved out of home and a housemate had shown me Cubase, and I had a pirated version of Cubase, and I would sit there and I had drum machine, and that was when that was actually the best thing that ever happened, because I was like, I can finally put the thing on the thing so I can hear that back. That used to always be an issue. I was like, I really want to hear this guitar part with this other guitar part. So I'd kind of sing into my voice memo and I'd have all these things. And the ability to actually layer things and then press play and loop was just so amazing. So then I just spent all day doing that and playing.
So you didn't have that available to you till you'd made several records.
Yeah, till I'd made 2 EPs and the first record. That was definitely that attributed to the progression of the sound, because finally I could have an understanding and a grip on, you know what, I don't need that guitar part. Get rid of that one.
Yeah.
You know what, this is the best part. Suddenly things could get a little more focused. That's kind of how I would describe the music now. It's a lot more focused, and things are they're there for a reason. Nothing's accidental, nothing's layered more than it should be. Things are purposeful.
Right. So whereas the first 2 releases, you're figuring out what it is going to sound like as you're doing it to an extent, whereas these ones you're just working on it until you get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is the transition from the recording to taking it to the other band members?
We had done two records, so we did Learn to Exist and Speakerzoid. The big transition was Speakerzoid was a bit of a tough record. It was a complete shift in style. I honestly, with myself, a lot later, I admitted to myself that I was almost trying to cater to people that didn't like our music, which is such a, 20-something, I wanted everyone to like it. I wanted everyone to like me. When I released that music the night before, it was like one of the worst moments of my life. I remember before the record came out, and then something in my head was like, you don't really like this record.
Huh.
And I wanted to cry and I wanted to run. I remember listening to one of the premieres on radio, and someone said, this isn't the Jungle Giants, and I was like, I know. And I felt like I'd let everyone down, and I myself down. And the record came out, and luckily, people stayed with us. I think maybe people still appreciated the merit and the work that had gone into it. But the biggest lesson I learned, and we started getting booked just a little less.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we started making just a little less money from shows, and things got pretty rocky for a while, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And that is when I delved massively into just being responsible for the music, and also being open with myself and knowing, you know what, if that person doesn't like music, screw them.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Do you still feel that way about that record?
I know that, I didn't really write that for myself.
Yeah.
So, but maybe I'm just being super hard on myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people often message and go, hey guys, I know you, because we actually don't play any songs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Not
songs?
a single one.
Wow.
Not a single one.
That's a funny thing because there's bands that I really like that, like, I'd bemoan the fact that, shit, I missed them on that tour because this tour they might not play those songs anymore. They might, like, have moved away from that.
Yep.
But so if I were a Jungle Giants fan at the time of that. But I like that record, you know. I think it's, I wonder also, the title, does that come from Freakazoid?
Well, actually, it was...
Because that was like, there was this early, like, proto-rap group called Midnight Star, and they had a song called Freakazoid.
No, not from that. It's actually my girlfriend. I showed her a demo, and she just misheard the lyrics. She said, "Did you say Speakerzoid?"
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But the way, like, looking back in Speakerzoid now, I look at it as like a really testing time, but also probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it really taught me a lesson about being honest with myself.
Was there anybody pushing for that sound? You produced that one, right?
Yeah, well, Magoo did that record with us, but this was that final point where I was really butting heads with Magoo.
Right.
Yeah.
But was there any sort of management pushing you to make this type of record, or was it just you just trying to appease fans who weren't fans, or
it was like I got into Beck.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's wild, he's cool, he's like he's crazy, it's cool, it's beat driven, and I still really love Beck. I just think that I kind of emulated it a bit too hard. I gave up on a part characteristics that of the Jungle Giants, or even myself. I was just like, I emulated really hard. That's I guess that's the way I look at it now. I mean, there's still, like, to me, there's still original moments on the record all through it. But yeah, like, I guess maybe I'm just super hard on it, but like that's really why we don't play it is because it doesn't really feel like us.
Yeah. Who else in your, not just in your career, but like in your formative years? I mean, you mentioned Bon Iver. Who are other acts that you really fell hard for?
Bon Iver, that band I mentioned, Cloud Control, earlier. Yeah. I mean, in those younger years, it was kind of just, and Two Door Cinema Club, it was kind of those three. But then, like, one of the biggest loves for me, just after Speakerzoid, was LCD Sound System.
Oh, yeah.
And that just, like, really, and it, again, just, like, changed a lot of things for me because James Murphy is a producer and writer, and he married the two in a beautiful way.
Yeah, interesting. Because, you know, every time I'm prepping for an interview, I'll, like, listen, and then I'll jot down a few band names that, like, this reminds me a little bit of this, but I always wonder, you know, does the artist, you know, because I've played in bands and we were written about and we're like, oh, I hate that band. you know? Yeah. So I hear Phoenix a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually, I never really got into Phoenix, but a lot of people tell me that, and I think they're cool acts. I just never really delved into them.
And then your countryman Tame Impala.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you get into them or him really at all? He's another case of like somebody who does his own thing and has a band around it.
Yeah. Inner Speaker, that first record, I got so deeply into that. Yeah, and that was kind of, maybe that was around the Speakerzoid time for me as well. But yeah, I got really into him. Metronomy is a big one for me.
Oh yeah.
And Hot Chip.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We talked a little bit about the stylistic differences of the early material and then your current material, and then I didn't know you guys weren't playing any of the Speakerzoid songs. Yeah. Do you still play the songs from the first few releases the same way they are, or have you updated them to kind of the sound that you have now?
We actually play them the way that they are. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got like, we run track, and we have in some ways had to update it just to sonically match. Like, you know, if we've got a bass, I've like just delved in and I've messed around with the synth so it's a bit thicker, a bit fatter. But a lot of those original songs, they don't have any track. They're just like guitar. They're very simple guitar, bass, drums, boom. That's it. Instead of adding things, we just kind of just do them as they are. And I guess they actually do kind of match because they're quite angular.
Right.
You know, that first record is angular kind of rhythmic stuff. So it does fit.
Yeah. So what's usually on the track? Is it just somebody brings a laptop and it's just the things that you don't have with you? And
yeah, it's just, a lot of it's just synths. Like a lot of the stuff in it all kind of really changed with Quiet Ferocity, but a lot of, there's like kind of atmospheric synths or swelling things that like, it would just be silly to have someone there on a keyboard.
Right.
You know, just going, wow. wow. Like, you know, I mean, the weirdest job. And then...
Be easy.
Yeah, it'd be
for them.
easy. Yeah, but then they just like be sipping a beer for 45 minutes after that.
It's not a bad gig.
We actually, one of my best friends in the whole world, Louis Stevenson, when Speakerzoid came out, that very job, I was like, dude, would you mind being... Actually, for a bit, Jungle Giants had a fifth member. It was Louis.
Oh, really?
And he would do it with us, and he would do those little synth parts, and he would, you know, help with the bass parts, because Speakerzoid there was so many parts to it.
Yeah.
That we were like, okay, we're going to need a fifth person doing the tambourines here.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, like, there is so much light at the end of the tunnel, because through that whole learning experience, it made me re-fall in love with music and made me learn to love myself a lot more. That whole experience opened up the doors for me to be able to write music honestly. And so, like, you know, this awkward time of having the fifth member and doing that and the songs and watching the crowds kind of dance differently, and because I think people can smell when you're being honest. People can sniff it out, and the crowd was kind of like, well, it's all right. You know?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, that's terrible. It is very strange.
When you were going through can we call it the Speakerzoid schism or the Speakerzoid crisis?
Yeah.
Were the other band members piping up and like saying anything about it?
Well,
or did they not realize?
They're so amazing. They're so supportive of me. It's like they'll support me through the hard times and the good times. They supported me completely, and I think, like, when you're saying this is the music that I want to make, and they supported me wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And I remember this one crazy moment. This one of the first. Well, we booked this tour, Speakerzoid tour. Tickets weren't selling as well. And we were in this place in Ballarat, and it's like it was an okay venue, but it was a little dingy, and there was no green room. I was in the bathroom. I was really nervous, and I was just in this cubicle, and I was just kind of, I don't know, I was hiding before the show, and Andrew was out there, like, just like doing a wee, and then it was the two of us in the bathroom, and then these two guys came in. They're like, oh, are you here for Jungle Giants? Like, really poking guys. The other guy was like, yeah. And he was like, you into that new stuff? And the other guy was like, nah, it's shit. and then he was like, but you like the earlier stuff, hey, like, and he was like, yeah, I hope they play that. And then they're like, yeah, see you, man. And they walked out.
You didn't come out and be like, hey!
No, they did. Andrew was there peeing next to them.
Yeah.
They didn't know they didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
And then they left, and Andrew waited until I came out of the cubicle, and he just, like, gave me a hug. He's like, it's all right, man.
Oh.
And
man.
It was a huge moment, but I just love Andrew for that.
Yeah.
He's there through the good and through the bad.
Wow.
He was like, it's okay, man. And then we did the show. And then through this experience, after Speakerzoid, I went into the studio and I really started working out and hatching out a plan, not for success, but more for me being, okay, what music do I actually love? What music do I really like? Instead of, like, what do I want to say? It's like, how do I want to put this together? I remember being in the pool with my girlfriend, and I don't know, I just did one of those other moments, like maybe like how I said to my mum, I've got music in my head. And I went to Grace, I was like, Gracie, yeah, what? You can be a band and kind of dancey at the same time. And she was like, okay. But it was like this little, like, epiphany. I was like, oh, you can, you totally can. And I think the reason why I said that was because I'd been mulling that over for months, like, and then I just said it because I was like, oh, you can't, I know how to do it now.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the synth and the guitar, and I'm going to do this sound. And it was like one of the first structures of how I wanted to make music. So I went to the studio and I started working on these songs, and I started changing the sound completely again. Like, it's like from first to second record, change of sound. Now to the third one, Quite Frosty, complete change of sound again. But this felt really, really, really exciting. This was the birth of the first listening party. I had all these songs together, and I went, hey, you guys, come to... And at this time, the band was now... I had a little studio, and the band was paying for a writing room for me. So I had speakers and a synth, and I was making this song. You guys, come down to the writing room. I'm going to make everybody a margarita. I'm going to have to get so drunk because I was so nervous. And I got a laser light, and I got a little disco ball. I turned off all the lights, and I was like, you guys, sit on the little couch here. They all sat there, and I was like, I'm going to show you guys some new songs. You're going to listen to the songs now. And I was so nervous and excited. I could have just shaking. And I had like 4 beers before they got there. They sit down, and I put on the music, and I could barely look at them, but I played them for the first time. I played them in the first listening party. It had Feel the Way I Do, and it had Waiting for a Sign, and a couple of the songs that were on the record. And I remember them like freaking out. And I remember just watching their faces. I think Sarah was just like, she always just goes like, wow. Like, she takes her a while to really give you an opinion. Andrew is kind of similar, but he's very much gives you something. And Stuart, our manager, who's like the fifth band member, he's one of my best friends. He was like, yeah, man. And then Keelan was like, that's a banger. Do it again. Play that again. Everyone's like, do that again. And suddenly I'm welling up with like, oh, I know. I was like, I know. This is awesome. I put it on again, and then like, now I have another margarita, and it was a celebration, and it felt good because this music to me felt like new, and it felt like music that I really, really, really wanted to be listening to. And I felt so scared because it easily could be terrible, but I knew, I was like, this is awesome. I was like, this is fucking great. Like without like, I'm tooting my horn, but I was like, I'm so excited about this. And then we finished that, and we all went out to a bar after that. I set up a little Dropbox for everyone. I was like, now we'll go to a bar, but then now you've got it forever. You can listen to these. And I remember Stu going, Sam, these are amazing. This is good. We've got a record going here, man. And then the next couple of days were really scary because I was like, okay, now it's real though. Now there's no margaritas. Now it's Tuesday morning. No one's called me yet. Man, I don't know. It's like definitely a big fault of mine is I look for that approval, especially with music. This is just classic Andrew style. He likes to sit with things and inform his opinion, and he's so honest. And he called me. He was like, man, these songs are really, really good. And he was like, good on you, man. Like, I'm so excited about this. And then we got into talking about the parts he really likes. And I was like, thank you so much, man. From there, it progressed, and I kept working on the songs, and another listening party happened. And I want to tell you...
This time, did you bring people so they could dance?
This time it's still us again,
okay.
But it's always the margaritas again. And you know, this time, I've made some like extra fancy mojitos or something and with the disco lights, and it's maybe like 3 or 4 months after this, and I do remember each listening party having a reference to the other one. And this is when I was actually for the first time building a record. It all sounded like it was all from the same room or the same planet. I don't know, like now I like to imagine a record like there's corners to it. It is a room, and each thing is like a family member, and in the middle is all the dynamic between them. But there's cornerstones that they create a reference, a sonic world. And then each listening party, the guys were like, this sounds like a record. And then we had this call. Stu set up a call, and it's been a couple of years since Speakerzoid, and it's about time that we release some music. We talked on the phone. Stu was like, I think there's some really good songs here. I think that, how would you feel about like, getting some of them recorded and turning them from demo, because they were rough demos, into, getting them started to release. And he was like, how do you want to do it, Sam? Like, how do you want to produce this? Do you want someone? Then Cesira was like, I think Sam should produce it. I think, Sam, you should make these songs just how you've made them, but then we'll make them sound really good. And I was like, whoa, really? Like, my God, that sounds terrifying. I definitely did not feel qualified for that, but I was like, okay, let's do this. We're going to have to find an engineer. And I was like, I had a friend, Constantine, who's been with me since then with everything. And I was like, I'm going to call Constantine and I'm going to ask him something. And I was like, Constantine, I'm going to show you all these songs. And I showed him all the songs. And I was like, I want to produce these. I want them to sound just like this. I want you to allow me to walk around the room with a microphone and be like, keep tapping the right cymbal. I want to have that dynamic control. But I was like, you have to make it not sound shit though.
Right.
Like, I still am terrible with names of microphones, preamps. I know nothing. I'm good with soft synths and everything, and inside Logic is what I use now. I'm really good choosing the sections and the way I want it to sound, but not very good with the actual hardcore of studio. I'm not a studio dog. Con was like, yeah, okay, I can make it not sound shit. Totally, let's do this.
Yeah.
So we went into the room and started recording, and we didn't actually plan to record Quiet Frosty all in one, but we booked him for 2 weeks. Feel the Way I Do was one of the first ones we did, and we're like, this sounds sick. This is awesome. Get the next one going. And then, can you do the third week? Can you do another week? Then it turned into a month, and then we were like, our record's done.
Yeah.
This is it. We accidentally did the record.
And you were doing all the parts too?
So I was playing most of the parts, but this was one of the first times where I was like, Andrew, I want you to play this bass part. And then maybe I'd play some, but it was actually all band members were mainly playing their parts, but I was standing over, like, not in a weird way, but I was like, it has to be like this now. You have to play exactly like this. A lot of the times I'd play noodle back to them and then they'd play. So it was very hands-on. Yeah. Like, I'm proud of this moment because everybody, the whole band felt so invested. Everyone believed in it so much. I loved that they were allowing me to be so like clear, and they were doing exactly what I was asking, but they were playing it and their whole hearts were in it, in the song In the Garage. There's such a weird story to this, but one night I had this idea for this big kind of building section in the bridge. It's an instrumental song. but I got everyone, and I was like, I want all you guys right now. We're going to loop the bridge here. Con, you're going to loop the bridge here. Then it's going to drop in, and then each of us are going to sit in a chair, like we are right now, across from each other. We're going to get blind drunk, and we're going to talk to each other and tell reasons why we love each other. So we put up a mic in the middle of the room. It's such a weird, I don't know, but I love the idea, because I wanted all these voices talking and spinning around your head. But I was like, how about we just literally get blind drunk and get almost emotional drunk, and then we're just like, I love you because of this, and I didn't like it when you said that to me, 2 years ago, but I liked it. It was just really funny, honest conversations. And we changed up the convos. So one of them was me and Keelan, another one was Keelan and Cesira, another one was Dooris and me. It was just this.
What was the drink of choice?
It was definitely margaritas. We're a margarita band.
Okay.
But we were just wasted.
So what were some of the revelations that came out of that? Are the best ones the ones you chose?
I mean, in the end, we kind of kept almost all of it. We just cut it all down. And it was mainly for just because really you can't really hear anything. You can just hear the voices coming and going and louder and softer. It was just kind of like an instrument. At the end, all the voices culminate into me just going, I'm not just saying this because we're high, but I love you, man. Yeah. And then we used that. And then that's me just at the end saying, I'm not just, isn't that when you're really wasted or you're high or whatever? I'm not just saying this because I'm high, but I love you, man. And I was like, that is the funniest. Let's put this in the song. Everybody says this. Yeah. And at a party, everybody says this. So all these voices culminate to that, and that's the end. That's it. I don't just say this guy, but I love you, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it drops in. So that was one of those moments where the whole band, we felt so connected, and we had these little things that no one really knows about. That's just for us. Mm-hmm. No one will even really know what we were saying or what was going on there, but that's our little secret. That's great. So the past year, there have been a few singles, but when's the next full length? So I'm working on it right now. Yeah. And this is like, so that whole experience of demoing, and I've got a lot better at getting the songs closer to what I want. And so I did another listening party. I don't know when it was like a year ago. Actually, way longer, because Heavy Hearted's been out for like more than a year. Yeah. And it was Heavy Hearted and a couple of other songs that will be on the record. And I did a listening party, and again, it's one of those shifts again. And the band did the same thing. Cesira was like, whoa. Dooris was like, oh, I like this. This might split people up though. Yeah. And Keelan was like, this is a banger. It was the same, everyone just reacted the way we did. I think Stu, my manager, was a little spooked though, because it was like, this is house music now. And I think this is one of those points where now I'm trusting more into my own vibes, that I'm kind of okay because not everyone has perfect taste in music. Stu and we match up in almost everything, but now I'm okay with our differences. So instead of catering to his needs, it's more like, well, you know what, you don't know. Yeah, to answer your question, I'm still working on the record, but I showed the band Heavy Hearted, and then Stu was called up. He's like, hey man, we should, what would be really awesome is if we got that song and then we put this out and then we turn it into this tour. Let's do a tour. It was a whole new thing, because he was like, can we get it mastered in 2 weeks? And I was like, whoa, but then we haven't gone to the studio or anything. He was like, yeah, but it sounds great. Just put it out like that. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And I was like, give me 1 week. I'm going to go over all the parts again, just make sure they're good. All the shakers, everything. I'm going to just record them well. And this is kind of spooky now, because I don't have they're engineering with me, making sure it doesn't sound shit. So I was like, I'm just going to make sure is this the right mic? Does it sound good? And I just laid up the track, got the stems together. Then I flew up to Brisbane, and Con and I co-mixed it. Con and I sat in a room, and then we worked on Heavy Hearted, and then just sent it off. It felt kind of strange not having the band play on it, but it kind of also felt like that complete control that I'd almost always been leaning towards. It felt really good, because there was a lot less compromise even then, because sometimes, people can play a part. In the back of your head, I was like, no, you should be palm muting it just a bit more. Yeah. And that's just stuff that you, in your opinion, you need. So I felt really nice just going, okay, well, I'm playing, this is sounding exactly how I want it to sound. And then so I went to Con and I was like, well, just make sure everything I've done here, just make sure it doesn't sound shit, man, help me. And so we just put it out like that. And that's kind of been the process now. And we've only done one listening party. Actually, the one we just released, Sending Me a Loving, that wasn't even on a listening party. That was just one that I was working on. And then I sent it around on email, and everyone was like, that's great, put that one out. Yeah. So the process right now is more like I'm releasing the record at the same time as making it, which sounds spooky, but it kind of feels really good. So I was looking up all right, so I love AC/DC.
AC/DC.
Oh, that's a sick one.
And like I love all these Aussie bands, but I've never really sat down and like examined where everybody's from. And then just realizing, you know, you got Tame Impala all the way all over
Perth,
the west. Yeah. And then a lot of concentration in Melbourne, a little bit of Brisbane, and like then there's like a band like Hockey Dad I wrote about.
Yeah,
like,
they're awesome.
yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
But how come nobody ever is from like North
Yeah,
Australia?
like Townsville or something.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know.
Have you ever even been to that area?
Yeah. Yeah, we've kind of been like everywhere. I mean, I've never been to Alice Springs, which is like the tippy top. That's like the deserty tippy top.
Okay.
Of like the center, top of the center. But yeah, I don't know. Like I guess I honestly couldn't answer that.
Yeah.
I think people move to like the bigger cities and then they join a band or they do whatever they're doing. But yeah.
Right. In wrapping up, thinking about that kid who was playing the flute for 72 hours.
Yeah.
What is it that still keeps you going about music and keeps you in that intensity?
I think it makes me feel good. It makes me feel of worth. And I think it's so intrinsically a part of my sense of self, and it defines me. I think it's the way I live and breathe. Like there's nothing else I can do. No, I mean I could do other things. Like I think that I spend enough time and willpower on achieving things I want. But I think music is I don't know. It's just exactly what I should be doing, and it makes me feel of worth. And it's always the biggest challenge I can set myself, and it's always the biggest risk I can take, and it's always the biggest payoff. It's like a drug, but it's a happy, healthy one.
Music is Sam Hales' life, and it's also his happy, healthy drug. And I hope you are staying happy and healthy, listeners. Here's another way how. Without drugs, just the music drug. So at the top of the show, I told you about how you can receive a $100 discount on a Berklee Online course. Head over to musicismylifepod.com and redeem this special offer. That's it. You'll also get a link to all sorts of free resources, so check out musicismylifepod.com. This episode was edited by Talia Smith, mastered by Jose David Vindis-Mora. All visual assets coordinated by Mike DeBenedictis. Social media by Brooke Larson. Web assistance courtesy of Mark Thomas, Steve Zimmerman, Joe McDonough, and Chris Keene. I wrote and recorded the Music is My Life theme song, but the expert remixing comes courtesy of Lily Dickinson. Special thanks to Gabriel Reifer-Cohen, Kate Rackvick, and thanks to you for listening. Take note to join us on Monday, June 8th for a very special guest, Vanessa Carlton. And I want you all to stay happy and healthy. We'll talk soon.